In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Today brings us to the Sunday of the Holy Cross. But I don't think we needed our liturgical calendar to tell us something of a cross that we ourselves are bearing at this time. As you know, our parish has been directly affected, having a maximum on the number of people that we can have in the building at any given time. And that's speaking very self-interestedly. It is, of course, affecting those who have it, our frontline workers in healthcare and in every other industry that is still meeting with people who are vulnerable, who are at risk, and all through a pandemic. This is not the first pandemic that our church has guided its people through. And if past performance is any indicator, it won't be the last either. And there have been responses to pandemics in the past. The response that we have now, using the information that we know, is very counterintuitive for us. It's very hard for us. The idea of being without church, even for a week, is very, very strange and foreign. Different crosses have different sizes. One thing that this ought to give us is a lot of empathy. There's two places in particular that I visit that I think we should have, that we previously had sympathy with, and that now we will have empathy with, because we have entered into their struggle, entered into their passion, entered into their difficulties. As you know, I pastor a small community about an hour and a half west of here. And I'm able to get there 6 times a year. Here, we're very much used to having church just there. A quick car ride, possibly closer than our workplace, which we go to 5 days a week. And there's our church. There is our services. There we are all together. Yet the daily reality, the reality for half the months of the year, is that they won't see a priest that month. And they have nowhere to go to that month other than the private homes of parishioners. This is a great struggle. And this is a struggle that we now can understand ourselves. Although the nearest priest isn't 90 minutes away, they're still going to be in some way limited. There's another group that I visit. There's a group of refugees or migrants. I don't really care what noun we're talking. And they're put into a building. And this is where they are. Many people there we've been experiencing quarantine for 6 days? Not even that. We're still able to go outside, have a walk. We're still able to go to the shops. Heck, often we can still come to our church. Some of those people there have been in this quarantine, in their room and not too far beyond, for 7 years now. We want to get some perspective on the struggles that we're having. And I don't want to minimize them. I'm saying that the struggles that we are having, we can multiply. The uncertainty that many of us are feeling, they have been feeling for years. About a different topic, still uncertainty. And never mind that they lack the control to at least flee from a pandemic. We can go out bush. We have a country where there's 2 people per square kilometre. You think that's enough social distancing for us? But they don't even have this luxury. They don't even have this possibility available to them. Different crosses are of different sizes and shapes for different people. This is our cross now. Many of us will take inspiration from Saint Zosima, who we hear about in the life of Saint Mary of Egypt. And Saint Zosima's monastery had a practice. We'll hear about this either in church or online in about 10 days' time. They had a practice where they would go, it wasn't out bush there, it was into the desert. And they would scatter in all the directions of the compass. And if they saw each other, they'd turn the other way. They'd make sure that they didn't have human contact. A quarantine for the sake of their souls. And it's here that the elder Zosima, that Saint Zosima, was able to encounter extraordinary holiness. He had the temptation, you see. Who has done what I have? It's a very difficult temptation. It is, make no mistake, a temptation. No matter where we are in the spiritual life, it's a temptation. And there, he did indeed encounter someone. Probably wasn't who he expected. Probably expected someone who'd been there since they were born. Guy tripping over his beard. And instead, he found nothing that he expected. Someone who had turned from their life. But we'll hear more about St. Mary of Egypt in the coming weeks. Some have said that it's extremely difficult that the restrictions that we have received are coming at this time of Lent, where, if anything, our churches are fuller. And yet, much to our distress, we're having to limit the number of people that are coming to church at any given time. And yet this is a Lent. This is perhaps a greater Lent, we might think of it as. A time where the world has been taken into Lent, whether they like it or not. A time when we all are able to reflect. When, no, it's not as good sitting and being distant from church as it is to be able to be present. And yet this is where we're at. We're going to have to cultivate this. We're going to have to dig deep. We're going to have the foundations of our spirituality so strong, so rock solid. And perhaps this is the way that we will be able to do that. Forced from outside, yet this pandemic may be to the cause of great spirituality. And as I said last night, I think we will never take our services for granted again. Very easy, it being only half an hour away, and us saying we can go next week. Not now. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be a couple of weeks. Maybe it'll be a couple of months. Or longer. But we never, for the rest of our days, have the ability to take these for granted. We know how quickly our ease of access to services can be taken from us. And so let us cherish these services for all that they teach us, for the camaraderie, however distant, that they provide us with our community. I want to say one last thing. There's a lot of ways that we are able to be a part of this service, and I've put a whole heap up on my personal Facebook page. But one in particular seems really appropriate for right now, as I conclude today's sermon. We can't have coffee hour. And we can't have catechism. Our catechism classes are all on YouTube, and we're able to view them. And then our catechumens will be contacted to talk about how we can do a Q&A session, any questions that arise. But for all of us, we have no coffee hour. We have no fellowship time that is set out for us. So you'll need to make this your fellowship time. You'll need to make this your coffee hour. There are people in your community who would love to hear from you. There are people that you would normally speak to that you're able to hear, that you're able to call up. I know that's very strange for a lot of people making phone calls. Certainly strange for me. But I think we're able to go a little beyond ourselves at this time. And we're able to make the phone call. We're able to send the message. If we've got the capacity, we can make those video calls. And whoever it is that's in our household, needless to say, let's spend time with them as well. Let's spend time with those in our household, properly spending time with them, and make contact with all the people in our community between us. This is not the Lent that we thought that we would have, and it's the cross that we have to bear for right now. But maybe it's exactly the Lent that we need. Amen.